Dust rolled behind Ethan Ward's horse like a ghost trailing him through the afternoon heat. The main road into Willow Creek was nearly empty, save for a wagon rattling toward the fields and a couple of kids chasing a stray chicken. Ethan preferred it that way. Quiet suited him. He had lived with silence for 5 long years, ever since losing the only woman who ever truly understood him. Solitude had become his armor, his routine, his punishment, and his comfort all at once. But even a man who kept to himself could recognize when something was terribly wrong. He noticed a small crowd gathering near the general store, people whispering, staring, then quickly looking away as if afraid to be caught caring. At first, Ethan thought maybe a drunken brawl had broken out, common enough on a Saturday afternoon, but when he drew closer, he saw her. A woman, sitting on the ground beside a water barrel, arms wrapped tightly around 3 small girls who clung to her like frightened kittens. Her dress was torn at the sleeve, her knuckles scraped, her cheeks swollen and turning a sickening shade of purple. Her hair hung loose, dusty, and tangled, but even through the bruises, Ethan could tell she was young. Younger than she looked in that moment of pain. No one stepped forward, no one offered a blanket or a hand. They simply watched, their pity as useless as it was silent. Ethan swung down from his horse, boots landing with a thud that cut through the murmurs. The storekeeper, a graying man with a belly full of opinions and no courage to match, raised his eyebrows at Ethan's approach. "What happened here?" Ethan asked, voice low. The storekeeper leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Her husband, mean bastard, wanted sons, kept saying he'd be blessed with boys, heirs for his name. Got 3 girls instead, beat her near senseless after the last one was born. Then kicked her out this morning. Told her not to come back." Ethan stared at the woman, rage tightening his jaw. He had seen cruelty before, but the sight of this mother trying to shield her daughters from the world, with nothing more than her battered body, struck something deep inside him. Something he thought had died with his wife. One of the girls, maybe 5 years old, lifted her head. Her eyes were enormous, dark, and shimmering with silent fear. She didn't cry, she didn't move, she simply watched Ethan like she was waiting to see whether he would strike them too. Ethan felt a pang in his chest. The woman noticed him then and scrambled to her feet, though her legs trembled under her. She pulled the children behind her as if she expected him to be another threat. "I don't want trouble, sir," she whispered. Her voice cracked like dry twigs underfoot. Ethan raised both hands slowly. "I ain't here to hurt you." She didn't answer. Her breath came shaky, defensive. The town kept watching, but no one stepped forward to help. No one even dared to meet Ethan's eyes. Disgusted, he knelt down, not before her, but beside the smallest girl, who sat on the ground clutching a rag doll with a missing arm. Gently, he picked her up. She froze at first, but when Ethan settled her securely in the crook of his arm, something in her tiny body softened. "You're coming with me," he said. The woman's lips parted, shock flickered across her bruised face. "Sir, we don't know you." "You don't have to," he replied softly. "But you can't stay here. Not on the street, not like this. We've nowhere to go. You got somewhere now." Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back stubbornly. Why would you do this for us?" Ethan looked over her shoulder at the townspeople, all pretending to mind their own business. Then he met her gaze. "Because someone should have stepped in. And they didn't." She swallowed, her breath trembling. Ethan stood, still holding the smallest girl. "I got room, I got food, and I ain't letting you spend another night with bruises turning black." Slowly, the woman nodded, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time. Ethan realized then that his quiet, lonely world had already changed the moment he saw her. And he didn't regret it one bit. The journey to Ethan's ranch was longer than anyone might have imagined. The roads out of Willow Creek were rocky, winding through fields of dry grass and sparse trees that had grown twisted from years of harsh winds. The sun hung low, burning the horizon with a molten orange glow that streaked across the sky, making shadows longer, darker, and somehow more alive. Anna kept her eyes fixed on the passing scenery, though it was clear she was barely taking in anything. She had seen too much cruelty in her life to trust the world easily, and even now, sitting in the back of Ethan's wagon with her 3 daughters huddled beside her, she could hardly believe they were being offered safety. Ethan, silent as always, drove the wagon. His hands rested lightly on the reins, yet there was a quiet strength in every movement. His eyes scanned the horizon constantly, not for trouble, but because he had learned to notice everything, to anticipate danger before it struck. The horses responded to his subtle commands, their hooves drumming steadily against the uneven road. Anna glanced at her daughters, watching how they clung to each other. The oldest, a girl of 7 with dark, solemn eyes, kept checking the ground as if expecting someone to jump out and snatch them away. The middle child, 5, fidgeted constantly, tugging at Anna's sleeve, asking small, whispered questions that Anna couldn't answer. And the youngest, a tiny bundle of energy barely 3, rested her head against Ethan's shoulder, dozing in the safety of his presence. Ethan noticed it all but didn't speak. He didn't need to. Silence was a language he understood perfectly, and over time, Anna would learn it too. The wagon rattled over a loose stone, and Anna flinched instinctively. Ethan's gloved hand steadied the wheel. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Nothing's going to hurt you now." The first glimpse of the ranch brought a cautious hope. Ethan's home sat atop a small rise, surrounded by fences he had built himself. The barn was sturdy, painted a fading red, with chipped wood that bore the marks of years of weather. Smoke rose lazily from the chimney, and in the distance, a small garden stretched along the edge of the land, rows of vegetables standing in neat order despite the dry soil. Anna swallowed hard. It's beautiful," she murmured, almost to herself. Ethan shrugged. "It'll be yours too if you want it." At the gate, he helped her down from the wagon, then helped the girls one by one. They clung to their mother, unsure of how to navigate this sudden safety, this sudden kindness. Anna's knees shook as she stood, her hands pressed to her chest as if she could still shield herself from the world. "This place is yours as long as you need it," Ethan said, voice quiet but firm. "You don't owe me anything. You just stay." She looked at him, her gaze torn between disbelief and gratitude. Why are you doing this?" He turned to look out at the horizon, at the empty stretches of land that had been his only companions for years. "Because no one helped me when I needed it. Because I know what it's like to feel invisible, forgotten. And because no woman should ever be punished for having children, girls or boys, or for loving them." Anna's lips trembled. She wanted to speak, but words failed her. Instead, she nodded, letting the wind tug at her hair and the sun warm her bruised skin. The days that followed were a mix of quiet work and slow, healing moments. Anna found her rhythm in the kitchen, cooking meals with the ingredients Ethan had stocked. She tended to the garden with care, showing the girls how to plant seeds and pull weeds, teaching them that life could grow even after hardship. The girls laughed more than they had in weeks, their small hands covered in dirt as they chased each other through the yard, squealing with delight. Ethan watched them from the porch, repairing fences or mending tools, listening to the sound of laughter echoing through the empty spaces that had once been silent. He found himself talking more, not just to the horses or the land, but to Anna, asking her about her life, about her daughters, about the small things that mattered. And slowly, she began to answer, her voice soft at first, then more confident as she realized that this man, this stranger, was not just protecting them, but valuing them. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the barn and the sky blazed with streaks of pink and gold, Anna approached Ethan while he leaned against the porch railing. "You saved us," she whispered, her voice breaking. He shook his head, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "No, you saved this place. I haven't heard laughter here in years." "Not like that." Her gaze lingered on him, something warm and unspoken passing between them. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Ethan Ward realized that the emptiness he had carried was beginning to fill, with life, with hope, and with the quiet possibility of love reborn. The peace at the ranch could not last forever. Life had a way of testing even the strongest bonds, and for Ethan, the test came in the form of a rider storming up the dusty path, black boots striking the ground with fury. Anna's eyes widened as a man approached, riding with an angry, unsteady confidence that made her stomach twist. Her heart hammered in her chest. It didn't take long to recognize him, her husband, the man who had beaten her, who had discarded her and their daughters like unwanted property. His face was red with rage, his hands trembling not from fear but from the effort it took to control himself. "I want what's mine," he shouted, voice breaking against the still air. "She's my wife. And those children, my children. You can't keep them from me." Anna instinctively stepped in front of her daughters, holding them close. "We're not yours," she said, voice firm despite the trembling that ran through her body. "You gave up that right when you hurt us." Ethan walked slowly down the steps of the porch, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust with every step. He didn't hurry, he didn't raise his voice. There was a cold, deliberate calm to him that made the air around them feel heavier, as though the very world were holding its breath. "You have no place here," Ethan said, voice steady, carrying more weight than the man could have imagined. "You hurt her. You hurt those girls. And you thought you could just take them back? The man's eyes narrowed, fury rising into a white-hot blaze. I won't let you keep my family. They belong to me. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, each movement controlled, precise. Then, with a quiet, resolute power, he grabbed the man's arm and pushed. Just once, but enough to send him stumbling into the dust and rocks at the edge of the yard. Anna gasped, fear and disbelief warring in her chest. The man scrambled to his feet, but the fire in Ethan's eyes stopped him cold. There was no hesitation, no doubt. Ethan would not allow harm to touch her, to touch his home, or to touch the children who now filled it with life and laughter. This ranch isn't for cowards, Ethan said quietly, his gaze never leaving the man's. Leave, now, and don't come back. For a moment, the man looked ready to fight again, but in that moment, he realized the truth. Ethan wasn't just a rancher protecting his land, he was a man who had fought through loneliness, through loss, and through the kind of pain that tempered his soul into something unbreakable. Finally, defeated, he backed away. Anna watched him mount his horse and ride off, rage still visible but powerless against the boundary Ethan had drawn. The sound of the horse's hooves faded into the distance, leaving a heavy silence behind. Anna fell to her knees, clutching her daughters tightly. Tears streamed freely down her cheeks, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and something she had thought she'd never feel again, safety. You didn't have to risk that for us, she said, voice trembling. Ethan knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. I did, he said softly. Because I don't want you to leave. Not you, not the girls, not ever. Anna lifted her head, her wet eyes meeting his. Ethan, she whispered, as if testing the name on her lips, as if saying it aloud could make it real. He took a deep breath, his hand brushing a strand of hair from her face. You came here because I told you, you're coming with me. But if you stay, I want it to be because you choose to. Anna's lips trembled into a small, tentative smile. She looked at her daughters, who were now clinging to her skirts, their eyes wide with curiosity and cautious hope. Then she stepped forward, closing the distance between them, resting her forehead against his chest. We choose you, she whispered. All of us. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him, a lightness that had nothing to do with the sun hanging low over the horizon. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her and the girls close. For the first time in years, his home felt alive, not just a building of wood and stone, but a place full of love, laughter, and the chaotic, unpredictable joy of family. That night, as the stars emerged one by one over Willow Creek, the ranch was quiet in a new way. Not the empty, lonely silence Ethan had known for so long, but a contented, full silence, the kind that comes after a storm has passed, when hearts have been mended and courage has been rewarded. Ethan sat on the porch with Anna beside him, the girls finally asleep inside, their soft breaths drifting through the open windows. He didn't need to speak. No words were necessary. The unspoken understanding between them, the bond forged in hardship and protected with unwavering resolve, was enough. Under the vast, forgiving sky, a lonely rancher had found his family. Not by blood, not by chance, but by courage, love, and the quiet promise that no one would ever be hurt under his watch again. For the first time, Ethan felt complete. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to believe that life, messy, painful, but beautiful, could finally be theirs.